few tips, which will probably not sound new to you, because I'm sure NATO is not the only one that shares such tips, but create a CV in English. I know we have 31 states. If we were to actually receive all the different language CVs, it would be complex for us. So please do one in English. Ideally not a Europass. It's long, difficult to read. Just skip that and do a CV. Have it reviewed by either an English native or someone that can proofread it for spelling mistakes. Tailor your application to your job advertising. So if you look at the job advertising, they're quite long. They're about 5-6 pages long. There's a reason for that. So read it. Everything you will be asked is probably in there. Competencies are in there. They're listed. Essential and desirable criteria are in there. So if you read it well enough, you have a very good grasp of what the role is. Maybe not about the questions, but you can probably think about a few things that the panel might ask. Read carefully the essential and desirable criteria. The essentials are essential, as the word says. The desirable are something you might want to put forward if you have it, or sell a bit more if you get asked. Target applications. So please do not mass apply. It's not good for your own time management, and it's not good for you, basically. So think about what you want to apply for. For me, I mean, it could be more than one role. Of course, we have 300 roles a year. It could be more than one. But think about the levels, the experiences, the fields you want to apply to, and make it relevant to you. Update your LinkedIn if you have one. We tend to check it, although you won't see it because we are on a protective view. And we update your Twitter if you tweet. It's always interesting. If you have a professional one, if you have a personal one, we'll probably not look at that. But if you give us some social media, we'll look at them. Use action words. So I don't know if all of you are familiar, but if not, the STAR methodology: situation, task, action, result. So when you give us an example of something you've done or you've achieved, try to keep it to that model. It helps us follow, and it helps you structuring yourself. So it means the example is more to the point, easier to follow. We don't lose you. Don't use acronyms. If you do, please bracket them, help us understand what they are. And then once you define them, you can use them through the text, but I wouldn't recommend to use them unless you really need those, or they're really obvious. EU, we know what that is. So there's no need to mention your high school or your diploma unless that's the last thing you did. But if you are already in university, what is most important is the last diploma you finished. That's what we will concentrate on. We don't need to know about your political or religious affiliations. They're not important for you to do this role. So you can decide, well, please don't disclose them. They're not useful to us. And only disclose your hobbies if they're relevant. So I like to read. I like to read about political matters. Maybe better. Just make sure they're relevant and they are kept to the role you're applying to. And then, yeah, prepare. I'm not going to say it's easy to prepare, but it's easy when you know what to prepare. So if you look at your competencies, NATO competencies are available online. If you type NATO competencies dictionary, there's 16 competencies that always get tested, and 6 to 8 of them get always taken into account into a vacancy notice. So you can think about examples of when you displayed those, how those can all be prepared. There's things you won't be able to prepare, but most of these you will be able to prepare. Your motivation, as I said. Make sure you are ready for those. Why NATO? What happens at NATO now? So we know there's, the invasion from Russia to Ukraine, but what else? We have much more. There's a strategic concept. There's a Vilnius summit. There's a summit yearly. What have they decided? What are those things? For us are always interesting. It means you keep connected to the organization, and you know more than what maybe the media shares on the 8 o'clock news. And yeah, all pre-screenings are important. We read them, so take time to do them carefully. We'll be attentively reading them. And as we were saying, there's some animation video with a little character going through a selection process at NATO that is present on our website and now also on the Diplomatic Institute website. If you decide to go through a selection, that's exactly what will happen to you. So it's an interesting time to actually look at it if you decide to take the step. As I said, and I'm going to repeat myself, but typical interview topics: motivation, background, so not necessarily a list of your background, experience, etc. that we see, but how they apply to the role you're decided to apply for. So tailor it, do the job for us, tell us why this is interesting. Competencies, behaviors, so look at the behaviors and make sure you prepare for them and that you tailor them to the role. Technical skills and knowledge, so any technical skills you can bring, they might be asked whether in the written test or parts of it in scenario-based questions, for example, in the interview. And languages, so if you know how to speak French, for example, but maybe it's not at the level you would like it to be, still try. You can switch to English. All efforts are appreciated. I mean, we know it's a stressful situation. We just want to make sure that you're as at ease as possible as you can be with 6 NATO officials questioning you, but yeah, we'll try. I mean, it's still a candidate and employer interview, and we want it to be as you know, transparent as possible, and that's why we also did the video. Okay, I could probably write a little book on this. Common interview mistakes, poor preparation, not knowing what NATO does, so who we are, not knowing how many members there are, so very basic things. Two, very confusion on, you know, what issues of decisions that get mixed up with EU decisions. So yeah, beware. Poor time management, so make sure that you have some time, use it at the best, so use it all. Don't make it shorter, use it, but use it as best as you can. Candidates that assume we know. I don't know your background, your history, where you've studied, what you have to offer me and NATO, so please spell it out for us. We need to know. Candidates not being structured, so you lose completely sight of what they were trying to say. Or concrete enough, so what exactly happened in this situation? What did you do? And I know it's a bit tricky to always speak in we or in I. Try to find your balance between what you did and what you did with a team, what you did together. It's as important, but it's also important to understand your contribution. So you can say, the team did this, but this was my role within this project, for example. Candidates that read notes. It's a closed book environment, and reading notes is very disturbing for people listening and watching you. So if you don't have the eye contact with them, it's a very strange experience for everyone. Please don't do that. And a poor closure. So there's no obligation to ask questions to the panel if you don't have any. But you can decide to make a mini elevator pitch, or to say something you have forgotten to say, to sell yourself on something that hasn't been asked and you think it's important. Or you can decide to ask about the team structure, the projects. If they can share that, they will. What I would stay away from is asking at this point in time. So NATO is quite transparent when we publish roles. So there's you will see there's always salary on there. There was always whether it's possible to work from home, whether you work weekends in that kind of role. All of that is in the vacancy notice. So read it. That this is not necessarily the best time to ask those questions, which doesn't mean it's forbidden, but I would use it for something more content-based, as you don't get much time. So being a good candidate and being a good applicant is a very different thing. Please bear it in mind. You might be the best candidate, but you have not gone through the application process correctly. Something that you can learn, doesn't necessarily come through at the first time. For some it does, but it's okay. Practice. People actually try and over again, and sometimes it's not so obvious. But I would encourage you to, if you're interested, to start trying and using all the material that is available to you to do that. So I hope this was useful. There's a question mark here, but I think I need to wait for my colleague Felipe to do his presentation before I can take any questions. But thank you.